Well, there's still a lot of drama going on around the Big Ten as it looks for its third straight national championship. Programs are making hires all over the place, except Michigan, who seems to still be having trouble finding their new head coach.
Not so funny now, is it?
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome in. It is a Locked On College crossover of Hoosiers and Nittany Lions. I'm Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers. He is Zach Seyko, host of Locked On Nittany Lions, who has nothing to say about the Michigan head coaching search.
Nothing, not at all.
That they continue to be on, and he's not salty that it took Penn State as long as it did. But
I don't care.
A lot of. Well, I guess we'll find
we
out.
Got a coach. I don't care.
We got a coach. You have a coach, and Michigan cannot say the same. But other Big Ten teams have coaches. We'll talk about that and kind of grade those a little bit, get our feelings on what those hires have been like. Also, the Big Ten, is it going to win another national championship? We'll talk about that. Michigan still looking for their next head coach as well. But first of all, Merry Christmas, everybody. We appreciate you being with us on this Christmas day. Tons going on around the sports world, and I know you've got stuff going on with your family. So wherever you're watching us, in the car, on the way somewhere, maybe you've snuck off to the restroom, or you're just sitting in the living room and don't care with headphones on, we appreciate you being a part of Locked On Hoosiers and Locked On Nittany Lions. And let's start with what continues, Zach, to be the biggest story in the Big Ten. It's the idea that Michigan is still looking for its next head coach. And Alabama winning last week took Kalen DeBoer off the table, at least for now. And then Kenny Dillingham signing an extension at Arizona State took him off the table too. So where the heck does Michigan go from here?
Well, for following the market odds, right? Kyle Whittingham, which I think would be a solid hire, but now we're when on the outside looking at all of it, it's hilarious because I was doing the exact same thing. It was, well, we'll get Mike Elko. Mike Elko will be available. We'll just be able to offer him more money. No, you won't. I can tell you because I experienced this firsthand. Yeah. Well, we're just going to wait on Alabama and Kalen DeBoer in an absolute dumpster fire, and we'll hire Kalen DeBoer. No, you won't. Well, we'll be able to go and get somebody else and pay them enough money to convince them to leave their alma mater. Is that Brent Key? Is that Jeff Brom? No, you won't. You're going to end up with somebody that is hopefully a solid hire for Michigan's sake, right? Because we're going to talk about it more in the upcoming segment. I think Michigan State is on the up and up. They are rising right now, and Michigan, they got to be real careful. They definitely need to try to hire this coach before the transfer portal opens up, because it could be, and then that's where you might have to settle and say, we just got to get somebody to get somebody. And that if they end up going in that direction so that Michigan doesn't fall apart, they're going to go with Biff Poggi if that's the case, which would be fine, right? I would say that's the equivalent to the Terry Smith chatter, where it's, he's made his case. He's a player's coach. The program wouldn't fall apart. But I don't know, unless there's a total wild card that's in the NFL, I don't know who Michigan is hiring at this point that elevates them. This is probably somebody that is a stopgap, which Biff Poggi might be your best hire at the end of the day. That's why I started off by saying Kyle Whittingham, because I think he's one of the only few guys, because Kenny Dillingham told you no. Kalen DeBoer told you no.
For now.
Your prime, and those would have been A+ hires. So I'm glad that Michigan didn't get them. But everybody else that's kind of realistic to this point, even what is Jeff Brom ultimately? Does Jeff Brom elevate Michigan? Yeah. No, he doesn't. I like the idea. I think Clark Lea of Vanderbilt was floated as a guy that could really possibly take them a step forward. It'd be a good hire. I like Clark Lea as a coach. How would he fit at Michigan? I'm not sure, but that's an alma mater guy. That's a guy that's at his alma mater, loves where he's at. It's going to be difficult to get him away. So Kyle Whittingham, I think, is somebody that's different, but somebody that could be good for Michigan if you give him the resources. I don't think he ever had that at Utah, the true resources. Then they push him out because they're going into completely different. The second they get resources, they push out Kyle Whittingham.
A guy who was there for 2 decades.
Go figure, right? So Whittingham would be good. Biff Poggi, he would be a 1 to 2 year guy so that you could start this process all over again, which might be the best case scenario for Michigan. But like I said, it's not so funny now, is it?
Yeah, I mean, listen to the conversations we're having, because you're exactly right. These were the identical conversations we were having with Penn State just a couple of weeks ago. And the one that sticks out to me is the idea that we're still talking about not having a head coach. And how long did the Penn State one go, Zach? I mean, 4 or 5 weeks, right?
54 days.
Ooh, but who's counting in state college, right? 54 days.
Doesn't matter now.
Job. I wonder how long the Michigan job will be open, but I think Penn State got a good hire. And I don't know how many more Matt Campbells are floating around out there.
That's
I think
what I mean.
him is a comparable hire, right? Would you say that's a comparable guy? Someone who was at their former school for a long time, elevated their former school for a long time, but maybe had run its course and kind of peaked out there. I think Whittingham could work at Michigan, but my point to this whole thing is, who would have thought that we would have sat here and said, man, nobody wants the Michigan job? The Michigan can't fill that job? Like, that's kind of crazy to think about. You have guys telling them no, and they're still out there on the market. The only big job on the market right now, and Michigan can't find the answer to it. And so I think Whittingham would be good. Not great, but good.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced, and this is not any insider information or anything like that. I think that Kalen DeBoer is not 100% off the table just yet. There is a world.
We're doing it. We're doing it.
There's a world where Alabama loses to Indiana in the Rose Bowl, which is on what day? New Year's Day, which is January 1st. He could become the Michigan head coach that night, and the portal opens on January 2nd. I'm just saying. I'm just speculating.
Drink the Kool-Aid. Do it. It's fun. I loved it. It was great for content for weeks. Do it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be overly surprised if it happened either. But
I would.
Michigan's got to get this locked down, man. Michigan's got to get this locked up. You're right. Before January 2nd, when the portal opens, or they're in big trouble, man, because the transfer portal nowadays, you've got one cycle, you've got a week to get this thing figured out. And if you're not making phone calls, let's just be honest, before it opens, you're in big trouble.
Biff.
And Michigan could find themselves in that spot.
Biff. That's why they got to go with Biff, because it was the same. And that's to the point of the conversation where you are. Because it was the exact same timeline. Okay, you go and swing for the fences. You make those calls. Mike Elko, you got to try. You got to flip over every stone. You try. Mike Elko, Marcus Freeman, Lincoln Riley, whomever. Penn State was there too. They did the exact same thing. But the difference now is there's no Matt Campbell type of head coaches that are remaining.
Yeah.
And there are people that want the Michigan job, but not the people that Michigan wants. Brian Kelly wants that job. He would love that job. And I think he would do well. But does Michigan want Brian Kelly? No,
they do not.
So you're going to go. I think Kyle Whittingham would be the best possible hire. Biff Poggi would not be a bad hire. Just know that Michigan's probably going to. Here's the thing, though, with Poggi. Michigan is going to be looking around the entire time. And that was the one thing that I said about Penn State possibly promoting Terry Smith from interim to the full-time head coach, is that, do you really want to be on the hot seat year after year by proxy that Penn State's prove it. It's not fair to either side.
Yeah, it's the prom date you settled for 3 weeks before the dance, and you're constantly looking for a hotter date before it arrives. That's just how it would go for Michigan. And that's not fair, but it is what it is. And so Michigan's still looking for a new head coach, and they'll find one eventually here soon. But several Big Ten teams have already landed on a new coach, including the Nittany Lions. We talk about those coaches and their programs and grade them coming up next on this Locked On Crossover. This Locked On crossover of Hoosiers and Nittany Lions is brought to you by FanDuel. This Christmas Day, a triple header of the NFL. So if you're watching or listening to this as the day is getting started, this is the day for you to be involved. I mean, how does it get any better than 3 NFL games on Christmas Day? They've decided to take over the day, and you can be a part of it with FanDuel, where one big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. Zach, I know you're going to have the games on around with your family. I'm going to have the games on, and all of our listeners will too. So why not make it a little bit more enjoyable? Jump up and cheer for that third quarter touchdown for absolutely no reason other than you having something placed with our friends at FanDuel. They've got live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly, plus player props that update as guys heat up. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, welcome back into this Locked On crossover of Hoosiers and Nittany Lions. He is Zach Seyko, host of Locked On Nittany Lions. I'm Jacob Goins, host of Locked On Hoosiers. We appreciate you being here to get a Merry Christmas to you and your family as we continue talking the hottest topics in the Big Ten. And right now, several teams have brand new head coaches, Zach, and I want to get kind of our thoughts on this and the temperature of how we're feeling, especially with some of these that have taken place a couple of weeks ago. And the hire that stands out to you the most, I think I know the answer to this, but the hire that stands out the most to you is who, where, and why?
If I'm being objective, right, I am going to go with Michigan State and Pat Fitzgerald, especially, but it's also predicated on the fact that Michigan, it doesn't know what they're doing. Okay, so this is a prime opportunity for Sparty to go and take back the state of Michigan, or at least take a piece of it, a big piece. So you have Michigan State trending, you have up, you have Michigan trending down. So it's kind of a twofold situation. Of course, as the Penn State podcast host, I'm going to say Penn State. And it's because this could have been a lot worse. Yeah. This could have been terrible. You could have been in a situation where you hired Brian Daboll, and I kind of like the idea of Brian Daboll, but there's a reason the board got together, allegedly. The board, the powers that be, got together to allegedly stop Penn State, Pat Kraft, from making that hire. Okay, you got Matt Campbell. I'm just saying it could have been a lot worse. So because of that doomsday scenario, Penn State, the fact that you got Matt Campbell out of this, you got somebody that not only is going to stabilize the program, potentially take you to new heights, but be a lifer. Matt Campbell's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
If things go well, I think this is his last job. And that doesn't mean, he needs to win 3-4 national titles for him to stay. No, it needs to be that Penn State invests in him because you are going to get his commitment. As long as you are committed to Matt Campbell, he's not going anywhere. He spent a decade at Iowa State of all places. You mean to tell me he's going to look to leave Penn State with all the resources and everything he could ever ask for there? And this is his family's close by. They're 2 hours away. His parts of his family did grow up in Pennsylvania. This is somewhat of a homecoming for him. I know he's a Northeast Ohio guy, but still, it's just, you couldn't have lucked out any better if you're Penn State. So that's why I would go with the Nittany Lions, but I have different reasons for anybody. UCLA made a good hire. I don't think that there's anybody in the Big Ten that made a bad hire that's like, whoa, why did you do that? Bob Chesney is somebody that can finally just inject some sort of energy, momentum. Exactly. Into UCLA. I think USC, especially with someone like Lincoln Riley, who's just like, is he looking over his shoulder? Is he trying to leave? That's another situation where USC's success is somewhat also dependent on UCLA just being trash. And if Bob Chesney keeps them at least, above average, well, then that's going to spell bad news for the Trojans. So Bob Chesney, and it's not going to fit right away, but I think in due time, California is big enough. He'll get some sort of response.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good players in talent in UCLA and the high school rankings, right? There's a lot of good players out in the state of California. And look, I think Lincoln Riley is on his way out of USC, but I've also said that for years and he's still there. So who knows how that's going to play out. But no, I like the Bob Chesney hire at UCLA. I like it better for UCLA than I do for Bob Chesney. And what I mean by that is Bob Chesney's a good coach who's won everywhere he's been. I understand he took over a good situation at James Madison and just kind of continued that. from our own Kurt Signetti, but he's won everywhere he's been. He was winning games and competing for championships in the D2 level. He was competing for championships and winning games at the FCS level. And he just took James Madison to the college football playoff. Now, whether they were supposed to be there or not, that's a separate argument, but he did it. And you can't take that away from him. But what I mean is UCLA found a really good head coach. I'm concerned that they don't give him what he needs to be successful. I could see a world where he doesn't win many games at UCLA and takes a different job somewhere else and does win games at a bigger program because they see the potential for him. But I think UCLA got a good guy. I do. For Matt Campbell and Penn State, for me, I am middle of the pack, middle of the road on this one, and I'm just in kind of wait and see it mode because you described it as it could have been a whole lot worse, which is absolutely true. But it also could have been better, right? There were bigger names that were on the table here. There were bigger fish that Penn State went after, and they turned away and didn't bite the worm, and they swam somewhere else. So I think Penn State got a good coach. Can Matt Campbell take that next step at a much bigger place, at a much bigger program from Iowa State to Penn State? If he can kick it into that next gear, this could be a great hire for Penn State and somebody who does get them over the edge, over the hill, the thing that James Franklin could not do, right? Then there's Pat Fitzgerald, one that you have talked about a lot at Michigan State, calling them trending up. When I first saw the hire, I said the exact same thing. But now that I'm starting to do a little bit more research and reminding myself of the last couple of years of the Fitzgerald era at Northwestern, which again, it's Northwestern. Let's not hold this guy to everything that happened there, right? In terms of his wins and losses. I won't get into the off-field stuff, but this guy was not winning games down the stretch. And I don't know what he can do in this new era of college football with the portal and NIL. He was not really in the game when all of that was getting to its peak like it is right now. And so that is concerning for me. But if Michigan State keeps finding families to donate $400 million, he might be okay. I could spend $400 million if somebody gave it to me. You don't have to teach me how. But you see what I'm saying is he's coming into a new era of college football, and I'm curious on how that's going to go. But for somebody to just step in and re-energize the culture and the fan base, yeah, I think Fitzgerald is that guy. So I don't know. I think Matt Campbell's the best hire in the Big Ten, but Michigan could get that guy. Maybe they just pull a rabbit out of a hat. I don't know. But I think there are better hires outside of the Big Ten than I think there are in the Big Ten, Zach. I think that's kind of where I stand. I mean, people want to talk about Lane Kiffin to LSU and things like that. I think Will Stein going to Kentucky's a really great hire. I know that's in the SEC, but I love that hire for them. And so, but that's coming from Oregon, right? That's an Oregon coordinator. Both Oregon's coordinators have dipped out and taken other jobs. And so that impacts the Big Ten. But I'll give it to you. I'll give you Matt Campbell to Penn State is probably the best hire right now in the Big Ten.
What about the coaches that were retained, that were given another year or an extension, right? I think so. It's not about questioning the teams that made a change. How about the ones that stayed pat? Nebraska kept Matt Rhule, gave him an extension. Wisconsin kept Luke Fickell. Maryland kept Mike Locksley, and they started off on the right foot. They started off really well, but then the way that we think of their season or talk about their season is vastly different than where they actually finished, because they started hot, but they ended up finishing in the exact same place, second to last, 1-8 in conference, 4-8 overall. So Mike Locksley is basically there to keep the Malik Washington from transferring, or Zion Ely to stay committed?
That was the guy we all talked about in our Big Ten squad. Everybody chose him to be the first coach fired. Everybody chose him. Yeah.
And then it was over here.
I also had Luke Fickell being gone by the end of this year, but our buddy Ryan Herrings at Locked On Badgers says, look, they're just not going to spend the money to buy him out. Is what it is. They're not going to pay it, which is such a wild idea in today's world, but it's the truth. So you're right. I think that's just as big of a story on coaches who kept their jobs versus coaches who were hired in the Big Ten. So lots of drama there on the coaching side for places that have been filled, jobs who are still open, right? Michigan, of course, being that one. But what about the college football playoff? Outside of coaches being hired, there are still teams competing in college football this season, and the Big Ten looking for its third title in a row. We talk about that drama in our final segment coming up on this Locked On Crossover. All right, final segment of this Locked On Crossover, Hoosiers and Nittany Lions. We appreciate you being here. Make sure you subscribe to both of our YouTube channels and follow us on your audio podcasting platform so you never miss a new episode of Locked On Nittany Lions or Locked On Hoosiers. And we're talking all things Big Ten on this Christmas Day as the college football playoff continues on, Zach, and the Big Ten looking for its third title in a row. Is it the Big Ten versus everybody else, or do you think that maybe there's some disparity there with a team like Texas Tech or Alabama or Miami who could step up and try to knock off the Big Ten?
Texas Tech would probably be the most likely one. And they might take down two, right? I'm not necessarily predicting that. I'm just saying they have an opportunity to take down two teams from the Big Ten back to back, since that's where they're placed in the bracket. I will say, and I will continue to stand by this, I don't think Ohio State is the number 2 team here. I think that they have some serious flaws, that Miami of Florida could be the one. Oregon and Indiana have a better chance of surviving than Ohio State does, in my opinion.
Wow.
Ohio State's not getting to the championship game, okay? Even if they advance past Miami of Florida, they're not getting past Georgia. So it's going to be Georgia most likely at the end of the day, because I don't see Miami doing it. I just know that they have the better chance of upsetting Ohio State than Texas Tech does against Oregon, and Texas Tech, in theory, against Indiana. You're going to have Big Ten versus Big Ten if you get Oregon versus Indiana. So just know that, for your sake, that if and when you make the college football playoff championship, you're not going to meet Ohio State in a rematch.
I would be okay with that, because I'm not scared of Ohio State or worried about Ohio State, but if I don't have to play them twice in the same season, I'm going to pass on that. But I still think that the Big Ten is the conference to beat. I think Georgia is probably that team that is the biggest threat. Texas Tech, I got to see it against a team like Oregon. They're a fantastic team. That defense is legit, and their offense is just as good, and people just don't talk about Texas Tech for whatever reason. I think Oregon could be in trouble, but I think Georgia is that team, and their head coach is the reason why, right? Kirby Smart is one of the best in-game defensive adjusters that I've ever seen, and that keeps them in every single game. Their offense is good enough, right, with the talent they have on that side of the football. And so Georgia getting to play Ole Miss in this second round, a team they've already seen this year without their true head coach. I know Golding's taken over, but this is his first head coaching job, and his first head coaching game was against Tulane. Like, let's be real. I just think Georgia will demolish Ole Miss in their first round game. And if Georgia can get Ohio State slipping, or if they play Miami, they're going to win that game. And then I think it's Indiana. I really do. I know biasy here, but I think Indiana's proven they're the best team in the nation. And even if it's Oregon that makes a run, I trust the Ducks to do some damage with Dan Lanning and Dante Moore. So I think Georgia or Texas Tech. Miami beating A&M was an anomaly to me. Shout out to them. I didn't believe it. I didn't think they could do it, but
no, I didn't think they could either.
I mean, I hope, though, that the Big Ten wins another title, even if it's not Indiana. I hope it's Indiana, Oregon, or Ohio State. Maybe not Ohio State, but you know what I'm saying. We want the conference to win and go for its third in a row, simply because it would just make everybody else mad, Seyko.
Well, and that's just it. The SEC is scrambling to find a way to just get one back. And the Big 12 wants a seat at the table. The ACC wants to say, see, we belong in the Power 2. The Power 2 conversation shouldn't exist because Miami got there. Well, you would have some credence there if they beat Ohio State. Texas Tech certainly gives the best opportunity. So I think it's absolutely fair to say that it's the Big 10 versus everybody else, because the Big 12 and the ACC are tired of hearing that they're not even in the conversation of the SEC and then the Big 10. Then when you talk about the SEC and the Big 10, the SEC just can't win a national title. Ever since the NIL and transfer portal era, they have no answer. Why? Because they always had an unfair advantage. then you actually leveled the playing field and, oh, look, the Big Ten wins championships year after year after year. Interesting. So yes, it is Big Ten versus everybody else, because now the playing field is actually leveled and nobody's caught the Big Ten at this point. The Big Ten is just very top heavy. So the SEC, well, it's the better conference. It's deeper. Okay, you know what? You got that. But year after year after year, last man standing is from the Big Ten.
Yep.
Who cares? I don't care that everybody's 7-5 in the SEC. Okay. I am more concerned about, like you said, who's got a ring on their finger at the end of the season. Nobody cares if Mississippi State beat Florida. You care about who hoists the trophy in the middle of January.
Let them know. Let them know. Raise the roof. The Big Ten's here to play. And with 3 teams in the college football playoff quarterfinals, the conference has a great chance to go and win its 3rd in a row. Those games are going to be exciting. The coaching carousel is exciting, and everything going on in the Big Ten is exciting as well. And we've got you covered every single day. He does, Zach Seyko of Locked On Nittany Lions, with all things Penn State. I'm Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers, all things Indiana. Again, make sure you subscribe to both of our YouTube channels. Follow us on your podcasting platforms, on your audio podcasting platforms, that is, so you never miss new episodes of our daily shows, plus our Big Ten conversations, breaking news, live shows, you name it, we've got it. There's a reason that Locked On is the #1 sports podcasting network in the world. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching and listening. Merry Christmas to you and your families. We appreciate you all so much, and we are so excited and blessed to do what we do. And we're back for another episode tomorrow. So until then, stay safe, and we'll talk to you later.